Actually, Israel has changed a lot. I'm saying, well, physically, I don't know, whatever it is, that every time you go, they build something new. If you guys want to buy houses, please buy houses now. The prices are going up. Mashiach is coming soon. My mom has a house. I have a place to run away to when Mashiach comes. Right there. My in-laws have a house. But anyways, and actually getting back to learning, it was very awesome. I decided to buy some food so to save some money, but it cost me the same. Didn't make any difference.
How much was it?
It doesn't matter, same price as outside. But there's actually extra. There's so much food. You could have 2 kubidas if you want. You like kubida? Awesome. What about chicken? What about goja? What about salads? What about taddy? It's better than the restaurant. Anyway, so let's go back. Actually, guys, we're going to learn about something. I probably haven't discussed this at all before, but as an introduction, we have certain months in the Jewish calendar that because of one day in the month, the whole month either becomes happy or sad. For example, again, you tell me which month is one of the happy months. That actually it's brought down in Tanakh, Torah, Nevim, Ketuvim, that it's a very, very happy month. The Jewish calendar. Okay, the month of Adar, right? You said it's a Chodesh, the month that Nehpach was transformed from sadness to happiness. Why? Because Haman, made this whole lottery, went to kill the Jews, happened to be on the month of Adar, on the 13th day. But then the Jews go and defend themselves. Not only that, nothing happens to the Jews, but actually kill their enemies. So actually, it's a month that turned into a month of happiness. But the day of the happiness is only one day, Purim, 2 days. Purim everywhere, and also in Shushan or Jerusalem, when there is a wall, they keep it a day later. But those 2 days had an impact on the entire month. The whole month becomes a happy month. And the truth is, even though the halacha is not like this, but it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, that in Talmud Yerushalmi, the Gemara in Yerushalmi says you could read the Megillah the entire month, even though we don't hold like that, because the whole month is a happy month. Also, we do find, for example, that month of Nisan is called the month of our redemption, because we came out of Egypt. Which day did we go out of Egypt? One day only, 15th day of Nisan. But the whole month is called a happy month, the month of Geula, the month of redemption. So you see, sometimes one day has an impact on the entire month. Now, the problem that we have is we're going to discuss about this month of Tamuz. This is the month that we are now, actually, tomorrow is the last day of the month of Tamuz. We're starting the month of Av, and we're going to talk about the month of Av too. In Av, you find two opposites. You tell me, what is month of Av known to be? Happy month or a sad month? Exactly. What's the reason that we are sad during the month of Av, this month that's coming? Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, number one, and number two, right? City of Beitar, the major city of Beitar, hundreds of thousands of Jews were massacred and they were killed starting on Tisha B'Av. A lot of, the day, that the spies came back, giving bad reports about land of Israel, so God makes a decree, they all have to die in the desert. Not only that, on that day, Hadrian, that was one of the Roman emperors, he actually plowed the mountain of the Beit HaMikdash, just to prove that Jews have nothing. So it's a very, very sad month. From the other side, what are the two happiest days in the Jewish calendar? One is Yom Kippur, right? Because all our sins are forgiven. Very, very happy day. What's the other one? No, the happiest day. It's not even Purim. Good. No. It's the 15th day of Av. Tu B'Av. They call it the Jewish Love Day. If you want to use forbidden language, Jewish Valentine's Day. I one time said that, Jewish Valentine, all rabbis called and they screamed at me. So I called it Jewish Love Day. We changed it. No, I mean, they were right. I'm not making fun of them. But again, on the 15th of Av, the Gemara gives reasons why it's a happy day. You know what they used to do on this happy day? And Yom Kippur also. Yom Kippur was a happy day because the sins were forgiven. 15th of Av, the Gemara gives 5 or 6 reasons. You know how they celebrated their happiness? On Yom Kippur and on the 15th day of Av. The girls dressed up in white dresses, the single ones. They went to the park, and all the single boys went, and each one chose a girl to go on a date, and they got married. It was that simple. Get dressed in white, go in the park, and somebody's going to see you. Maybe we should go on a date and get married. But don't try it today. It doesn't happen anymore. But I'm just saying it was such a happy day That's the way they celebrate it. So we have a problem. Is this month a happy month or a sad month? The first 9 days is terrible, it's like sad. We don't even eat meat. By the way, next week if you have class, I have to buy pizza or mac and cheese, whatever. You can't have meat. Honestly, we don't have any no marriages, no getting married. But then the 15th day is the happiest day of the calendar. So we're going to discuss how could that be. Also, the month of Tammuz, is it known to be a happy month or a sad month? You're right. What's so sad about Tammuz? You're right, absolutely right. The 17th day of Tammuz, we fast. Like 2 weeks ago, we fasted on Thursday, almost 2 weeks ago. And then actually the Torah calls it Tzom HaRevi, the fast of the 4th month. The entire month is called after the fast of the 4th month. It doesn't call it the 17th of Tammuz, the day 17. It says fast of the 4th month. So the whole month is going to be a month of fasting because of one day. But actually, in last generation, we're going to discuss this a little bit. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was sentenced to die in Russia because he was teaching Torah, and they actually signed him death. And then there was so much pressure on the Russian government, and so many prayers were done. They said, okay, we're going to send him to, instead of killing him, he was supposed to go to Siberia for 10 years. And then they said no. So they sent him to a different city for 3 years. After 9 days, they freed him. And that day was the 12th day of Tammuz, which is a happy day. So by the Chabad Hasidim is one of the happiest days of their life because their Rebbe came out of jail. So all these years we knew it as a negative month, but now it became one of the happy months. So actually we're going to give two explanations. How could they both be? You see, according to them, for the month of Av, when tragedies happen, the purpose is not to stay by the tragedy. We're supposed to get out of it, get happy, and actually learn from it. So when the Beit HaMikdash got destroyed, the purpose is not to stay by destruction. The purpose is fix it up. Mashiach will come and rebuild it. Right? We never live in the past. You're not supposed to live in the past. I don't know, there's a certain terminology that I forgot. When you have a very hard past, so we are stuck in the past, we can't get out of it. That's not good at all. You have to come out. So that's why in month of Av, we have Tisha B'Av, but 6 days later is the 15th day of Av, is teaching us that you're not supposed to stay by the morning. You have to get out of it and be happy. Clear? That's the way it's supposed to be. But again, in month of Tammuz is the opposite. Because what happens, you see, in month of Av, first you have the sad day, and then you have 15th of Av, which is the happiest day. In Tammuz is the opposite. The 12th day of Tammuz, which is the happy day, comes first. And then afterwards we have the sad day. So what we're going to discuss today is that really nothing bad comes from God. Even if negative things will happen, really deep down they're good, even though we don't see it. And I don't have an explanation for everything. But let's start the Gemara verse. The Gemara says, what's going to be the happiest day after Mashiach comes? Anybody, maybe attention. When Mashiach will come, what's going to be the happiest day? It's weird. What's going to be the happiest day after Mashiach comes? Tisha B'Av. The 9th of Av, which is the saddest day, is going to be the happiest day. We're going to celebrate more than Passover. Why is that, people? Okay, when the Mashiach will come, we will rebuild the Beit HaMikdash. There's going to be no reason to mourn. Understand that. But why the happiest day? It shouldn't be a sad day. So see what happens is they explain that really the depth of God's love was really shown on Tisha B'Av. It's going to be a little bit, weird because we're not used to it. But let's bring an example. You see, nature of a normal father or mother is to be kind to their children, right? That's the way normally it is. They want to give whatever they can give. What happens if the child doesn't behave in a normal way? He behaves in a very bad way. I mean, talk about the real caring parent, not a parent that loses control and starts screaming at the kid or beating the kid up, right? So he has to discipline the kid. Seemingly he's punishing the kid. I don't mean to hit, God forbid. He disciplines him, takes away something, or there's a consequence, doesn't get what he wants. Where do you see the deeper love of the parent? When he buys him toys or when he disciplines the kid? What do you think? Why? Yeah, but it's taking away. You got to say it better. That's true. So maybe it's the same love, or is it a deeper love? I want to bother you until you come to that. Okay. So see what happens is for a parent to be kind to his child, that's his nature. When the kid doesn't behave and therefore you have to discipline the child, he's breaking his nature. And why is it discipline the kid? Because he loves the kid. If somebody else in the street behaves in a bad way, just like his child, he's not going to go discipline the kid. Right? It's none of his business, basically. But again, also because he cares about his child more than a stranger. Unfortunately, we are limited. That's the way we are. Because he loves this kid, so therefore, out of his love, he wants to teach him something. He will break his nature. He's in pain. Believe me, nobody enjoys punishing their kid. It's very painful. But because I love my child, I actually put away my nature, I break my nature in order to go and discipline my kid. Go ahead. I hope it makes sense. No, it became clear? Okay, thank God for that. So let's talk about Passover too. Passover, is the time that God took us out of Egypt. That's natural. God shows His love. Shavuot, He gave us the Torah. By Sukkot, He surrounded us with the clouds. When Tisha B'av comes, because the Jews didn't behave, there was hatred between them, or for whatever reason the Talmud says. So you see, God had to discipline them, and actually says He destroyed His own house, but He didn't annihilate the Jewish people. A lot of them got killed. But the Midrash says that He destroyed His own house, and most of the Jews, a lot of the Jews stayed alive. So He did it, in order to really teach us to behave better. And even in the depth of the punishment, He shows His love for the Jewish people. So nowadays, we don't see the depth. Like a child, when he sees the father is disciplining him, the mother is disciplining him, the kid doesn't see the love. The kid sees the punishment. You don't love me. You never give me ice cream. I want another cup of ice cream. So he thinks the parents hate him, don't give him ice cream. But once he becomes a parent himself, he realizes because they love the child, they didn't give him too much ice cream. Is that clear? Clear, people? So right now, we don't see God's kindness. That's why we mourn on Tisha B'Av. But after Mashiach will come, people, then the punishment is gone. What do you see? The depth of God's love. That He broke His nature, so to speak, to discipline us. You see, on Passover, that was God's nature, to give us what we need, take us out of Egypt. So we're going to see the depth of God's love. That's what's going to be the biggest holiday. Is that clear, guys? I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, please ask. I hope it's not too deep. Fine. But I bothered you last week, I remember. I'm sorry if I did. Thank you. Anyways, if there's any questions, guys, let me know. We're going to go to the next piece. You're fine? Anybody knows the story of Tisha B'Av, Kamsa Bar Kamsa, or no? You know the story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa? You see, the Gemara says, let's go through this. So, the Gemara actually explains that during the first temple, I spoke about it in general, we never went into the depth. In general, in the first temple, the Jews did adultery, idolatry, and bloodshed. That's why they didn't deserve to have the temple, and they got punished. The Gemara asks, in times of the second temple, all Jews were religious. It was crazy. They were all religious. Can you believe that? Not only religious, but they studied Torah, they did the mitzvot, they all kept Shabbat. They even gave charity. So the Gemara says, why did it deserve the destruction of the temple? The Gemara says, because there was hatred for no reason. There was baseless hatred. And the Chafetz Chaim explains, it wasn't only hatred in the heart. There was actually Lashon Hara too. We spoke about it before. So we're going to discuss one of the stories that actually brought the destruction of the temple. Was actually because the guy was publicly embarrassed. And we're going to see how bad that sin is. The Gemara says there was a rich man. He had a friend that his name was Kamsa. Very strange name. He had an enemy whose name was Bar Kamsa. Now, who are these two people? Rashi says just two people. One was Kamsa, one was Bar Kamsa. Other commentators disagree with Rashi. We're going to soon see why. They say Kamsa was the father, Bar Kamsa was the child. Because Bar means the son, right? Bar mitzvah means son of a mitzvah when you become 13. So Bar Kamsa was the son of the guy called Kamsa. Anyways, guys, so let me have your attention. So what happens is he tells his servant, can you please go and invite for me Kamsa? The servant makes a mistake. He invites Bar Kamsa. That's what many commentators say was father and son. Because how could you mix up two people? If one is Kamsa, if I tell you go get David, you're going to get Josh. I mean, what was it? The servant was crazy. So they say no, Kamsa was the father, Bar Kamsa was the son. And again, the father was his good friend. He hated the son. So the servant made a mistake. He called the son. Now everybody's in the party, they're enjoying it. And then the guy that made the party is going through saying L'chaim to everybody. And he says, oh my gosh, my enemy's sitting here. So he says, what are you doing here? Get out. So the Bar Kamsa says, listen, I'm here now. Do me a favor. I'll pay for whatever I eat. Just don't embarrass me. The guy says, no, get out. So I said, no, I'll make you another deal. I'll pay for half of your meal. You're talking about rich people sitting and having parties. It's a lot of money. He says, no, get out. So it says, I'll pay for the entire party. Just don't embarrass me. So the Gemara says that this guy picked up the hands. He picked up Bar Kamsa, under his shoulders, whatever, and he just threw him out in front of everybody. So then when he saw what happened, and Bar Kamsa saw there were many, many rabbis sitting there, they didn't say a word. So it says, it looks like that the rabbis, they don't care. That, I was embarrassed. It's okay for them. I'm going to do something that I'm going to destroy. I'm going to bring destruction upon the Jews. This has happened many times when a Jew suddenly gets turned off and they join the enemy of the Jews. They become bigger enemies than the non-Jews. Sometimes it happens. There was an old story in Iran. There were two shochatim, two slaughterers of animals. They used to shecht animals, slaughter them. And one of them came out to be that one time non-kosher animal came from under his hands. And they actually excommunicated him and said, it's also to buy meat from him. He was so upset. Again, I don't know exactly what the story was, that he actually converted to Islam and he joined the Muslims to make pogroms against the Jews. It happens sometimes. So that's what Bar Kamsa decided. It says, they embarrassed me. I'm going to make sure that the Jews get destroyed. What did he do? He went to the governor that was there and he says, Jews rebelled against you. Now, believe me, nobody wants to fight against the Israeli army. God is with them. It's a tough army. It's a good army because God is with them. So this governor says, how do I know that the Jews rebelled against me? I'm not interested to go to a war. So it says, well, if you don't believe me, give me an animal. And we're going to ask him to bring it as a sacrifice. A non-Jew is allowed to bring a sacrifice in the temple. It's not like guys in Saudi Arabia that you're infidels. We can't go to Mecca. Not that I'm dying to go there. I'm not dying to go there. But again, every religion says you don't come to our places. Jews are not like that. Again, every human being is welcome. Come to the temple and bring a sacrifice. Even non-Jews, doesn't matter. So he sends a sacrifice, and you know what this Bar Kamsa does? He makes a split on his lips, which makes it non-kosher to be brought as a sacrifice for the Jews. But for the non-Jews was not non-kosher. Because by the non-Jews, only if he has like a cut leg or is missing a limb, it's not kosher. But he just made a split in his lips. For a Jew, it's not kosher to be brought, but for goyim it is, for the non-Jews. Some people say that he made like a cut in his eyelid. And actually, the Mefarshim said showed about the sin of the Jewish people at that generation. When he cut the lip, it shows that he spoke Lashon Hara. They spoke evil. And if he did, cutting of the eye, when somebody's cheap, in Hebrew they call him Tsar Ayin. In Persian, Chesh Tang, but they're not Japanese. No, not Chesh Tang. What it means, their eyes are, I don't know, narrow, whatever it means, that they're cheap. And he was actually kicked out of the party. They did not respect him. So when they bring the sacrifice, so the rabbis didn't know bring it, not to bring it. They made a mistake. They decided not to bring the sacrifice. So he went to the Roman emperor, the governor, and instead, you see, I told you, the Jews rebelled against you. And the proof is, this sacrifice wasn't brought. So at that time, they actually sent, Nero, the Caesar. Anybody studied the Roman history? In Iran, I studied. It was a big deal. I don't know if in America it's a big deal. But Nero was a Caesar. In Hebrew, it's called Neron Caesar. So he comes to destroy Jerusalem, but he was a little bit afraid. It says that he made a certain sign. He threw, arrows on 4 directions. Every time he threw an arrow, a wind came and blew it into Jerusalem. So when he threw towards Jerusalem, went to Jerusalem. When he did it opposite Jerusalem, a wind came and blew it into Jerusalem. So he realized God wants to destroy the city. I don't know how or what, but the Gemara says he saw a little kid. And in the olden days, kids knew the whole Tanakh by heart. They knew the entire Torah by heart. So I asked one of the kids, tell me, what did you learn in school? They took it as a sign. So he says, well, we learned that it says God is going to punish the children of Esav, which were the Romans at that time, for them, bothering the Jews. So Nero says, so God wants to destroy his house, but he's going to punish me. He converted to Judaism. Now, how do you know this is actually very true? Because in the Roman books is brought that Nero disappeared. No one knows what happened to him. If you look at the Roman history. So the Gemara says he actually became a Jew. Do you know who came from him? Rabbi Meir Balanes, the famous Rabbi Meir, came from this man, Nero. You got some great Jews, that came from non-Jewish people. It's amazing. Anyway, so then they sent Vespasian, or Aspasianus in Hebrew. So Vespasian actually surrounded Jerusalem, for 3 years. I want to make it I don't want to get into the details of it. But anyways, after 3 years, so Rabbi Yochanan, gets out and he meets him. Whatever, Vespasian becomes the governor, the new governor, and he sends Titus, which was his son. I don't have all the sources, but that's what I was told. And Titus comes and destroys the temple. So the Gemara says at the end, come and look how bad it is to embarrass somebody publicly. Because when somebody decides to go destroy God's house, he needs God's help. God has to want it to happen, correct? It's not going to happen if God doesn't want it to happen. Why would God allow his house to get destroyed in such a way? Through this guy. So the Talmud says, it teaches us that, look how bad it is to embarrass somebody publicly, that God actually allowed him to do his plan and destroy the temple. We cannot, embarrassing anybody is not good, obviously, but definitely in public, we can embarrass someone. The Gemara says when we embarrass somebody in public because he turns white, red, whatever different colors, is equal to killing him. And actually, if somebody does not repent or ask for forgiveness, he will lose his share in the world to come. Very, very scary thing. So that's one of the things that we learn. This is exactly the story why the temple got destroyed, because there was hatred amongst people. You don't like somebody that came to your party, don't say hello to him, but don't go kick him out. But that was an unfortunate thing that happened. Any questions, people? Any questions? Sometimes in high school when I go, kids embarrass, sometimes adults embarrass each other. Unfortunately. Anyway, so this was the second thing. Any other questions, guys? No questions? For sure not? Okay. Then I'm going to just finish up with the story, then we'll go to the other side. And this story is actually when you help another human being, you help another Jew, another human being, doesn't matter. A Jew is your brother, obviously, so it's even more of a mitzvah. But again, helping anybody, actually, you're helping yourself. We sometimes think if I help somebody, I did him the biggest favor in the world, so he owes me something. The other person is supposed to look at it that I did him a favor, but I have to know when I do a favor for somebody else, actually, I'm getting help from God later on. I want to share a story with you. The story happened in Russia, not with Putin. Putin wasn't around. Putin loves the Jews, you know that. You ever know that? Because when he was a kid, he came from a very poor family. He said it to the Chabad rabbi there. There was a Jewish neighbor that always gave him food. So because of that, he loves the Jews. That's what allows them to have synagogues, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, as good or as evil as he is. I don't want to get into the politics, but actually he loves the Jews a lot. In those days in Russia, we're going back around 150 years ago, at the time of Rabbi Marash, the fourth Lubavitch Rebbe, they did not love the Jews too much, I could guarantee you. So there was a man that his name was Rab Shmuel. This Rab Shmuel used to make vodka. Best business in Russia. I went to Russia one time. These Stalichnayas that go $11 here? I bought it for $3. And we brought it in the synagogue, we shared it. So that's one of the best businesses. There was one man that he lived for 116 years, a Russian. So they asked him, why did you live so long? You know what he answered? He said, I drink a cup of vodka every day and I never got married. That's what he said. I don't know about not getting married, but he drank every day 1 cup of vodka, so that's why he lived long. But anyways, that was one of the best businesses. Now, how did the Russians actually take taxes? So there was a meter that, when you opened up and you bottle those vodkas, it will tell you how many gallons or how many whatever liters of vodka you made and you sold, and you had to pay taxes. Now Russians, a lot of them drink really vodka like water. I'm not kidding. So then one of his workers that was non-Jewish went to the basement and he made a hole in that big tank before the meter, and he would steal vodka. And then he put like a stopper or something to close it. So for a while he was stealing and it was good. Nobody found out. And then also the boss didn't find that because the meter didn't show it. So what happens is another wise guy decides to go to steal too. And after a while, these two thieves that are non-Jews meet each other. Oh, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Mr. Thief, Mr. Thief. They say, you know what? Let's work together. So these two go every time to the basement and steal 2 bottles of vodka, and enjoy themselves. The problem was that one day one of them put 2 bottles in his pocket and he gave his friend only 1 bottle. So this Russian got angry and he punched him in the face. So he punched him back. It was a whole fight. So Shmuel, the owner, comes down and he sees what's going on. They call the police. These 2 Russians fall into jail. They throw them in jail. Once they were in jail, they said, you know what? We are not really thieves. It's our boss's fault. His name is Shmuel, right? He made us do this because he wants to go sell it, with profit, not paying taxes to you. And the Russians believe that because they really hated the Jews, any excuse. So now this Shmuel was thrown into jail and they freed those 2 guys. So thank God he was a rich man. He bailed himself out and he had a court case coming later on. Before he went home, he went to his Rebbe, whose Rebbe's name was Rabbi Marash, also Shmuel. And he says, Rebbe, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't steal anything. What's going to happen? I need a blessing. And he said these words, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri. Translation, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri. He said every time, the old guys, Shir Lamalo, the synagogue. Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri. You speak Hebrew? A little bit. What does Ezri mean? Ezer? No, you speak Hebrew, no? Ezri is help. So Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri means from where does my help come? This is the verse that David HaMelech says. Where does my help come? He says, Ezri me'im Hashem. Comes from God. So he tells the Rebbe, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri, where is my help coming from? So the Rebbe says, you know what? Gets very serious. And he says, go back home. When you hear another Jew that says the same words, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri, help him. And I promise God is going to help you. So that's a blessing that he got. Help another Jew that says, Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri, and God is going to help you. So he goes home, and everybody loved him, was a nice guy. They wish him luck. Somebody tells him, your friend Chaim, he had like an inn next to a river. One of the businesses in Russia in the olden days was that he used to sell wood. Now, how do you transport wood? So there's this big river somewhere in Russia that used to put it on boats and just take them from place to place. He had a hotel. And a lot of, people on the boat stopped by. They drank vodka, obviously. They slept there for a while. So his hotel, his inn, burnt completely. So he had no source of parnasa livelihood. So he goes to Chaim and he says, Chaim, I heard that your hotel burnt. What are you going to do now? How are you going to make a living? So he says, I don't know, but I can tell you what King David said. Ma'ayin Yavo Ezri Ezri me'im Hashem. He said those words. So he remembers that his Rebbe, Rabbi Marash, told him, and he heard such words that you said from another Jew, help him, God is going to help you. So he tells him, I have to help you. The Rebbe said, he gives him the money. He was a very rich guy to start building his hotel. And then the day of the court case comes. This poor Shmuel is sitting in a corner saying Tehillim and crying. Now, these 2 Russians that stole the vodka, they come in, they give their testimony. He's a bad guy. He made us steal. And these poor guys just saying Tehillim and crying, thinking the worst. And then what happens, before they gave the verdict, there was a judge there. And the judge says to the jury that I want to tell you a story before you give the verdict. There was a certain student that came from a rich family, and he was traveling. I don't know if there were trains in those days, I'm not sure exactly. But he says he was traveling and had a briefcase. And he put his briefcase down for a moment. Somebody came and stole the briefcase. Now, all his money was there, right? No credit cards those days. He didn't know what to do. He had no money to go back home. But coming from a rich family, he was embarrassed to go ask for money. So he was sitting in that train station, whatever it was, for 2 days, and it was becoming weaker and weaker. Nobody cared to even ask him, how are you doing? One stranger came, and he said, you don't look good. What's going on? So the student told him, well, I'm from a rich family, and somebody stole my briefcase. I just need some money to go back home, but I'm embarrassed to ask for money. So this guy gave him money, and he gave him some extra money, not just for his train, or whatever transportation he had to go home. And he says the student asked him, "What's your address? I want to give you the money back." So he says, "Well, don't give the money back. If you find somebody else in need, help him. I don't need the money back." So the judge says, "I want to tell you that that student was none other than me. He was a student then. And the stranger that helped me was this man, Shmuel. And for years, I'm looking for him to pay him back his money. Such a good man. Do you think he's going to? He gives from his own money to others. He's not going to pay taxes." I wanted to decide. So the end was that I actually acquitted him and he went home. What happened to the two other Russians, I don't know. Some stories say they beat them up until they admitted. Some people say nothing happened to them. I really don't know. But one thing we do learn, especially in these days, that if you help another Jew, God will help you. You know, the halacha says, in the olden days, they used to beat up their students. Anybody, your fathers told you stories from Iran, how you got punished if you didn't do homework? What happens to you if you don't do homework? So you get a grade down, big deal, nothing happens to you. Or they forgive you, they give you another day. In Iran, if you didn't do homework, they would bring these metal sticks, honest to God, and hit you on the head. They would get a pen and put it between your fingers and press it. There was one time a guy that was beaten for not doing his homework, so the teacher came to hit him. He pulled his hands. So the teacher hit himself on his knees. So hit him 10 times worse. And the problem was many times the parents supported the teacher. Not like you here, the parents supported the child. So again, even though according the old days, they were allowed to hit the student, not crazy like they did in Iran. They're allowed to give him a slap in the back of the hand. Not today, please don't do it. In the olden days, it worked. So the Gemara says that the halacha says these days, teachers should not touch their students, even according to the old standard. No hatred these days. So obviously the story teaches us the great thing that, when we help another Jewish person, don't think that you're doing him a favor. We're actually doing a greater good to ourselves. Because when you help another person, you're guaranteed that God is going to help you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to go to the other side.